All right, so let's talk about kids. As I know a number of you know, I did youth ministry for a long time. But what you may not know is frequently I ended up actually getting very involved in children's ministry. I actually remember one year, an individual who had been organizing Vacation Bible School, for this like 70, 80, 90 kids that we ended up having. Ended up with about 24 hours of notice saying, I have other commitments and I'm not going to be able to be there. Well, what do? Well, I was the youth minister, so I had to step in and go do it. It wasn't necessarily something I was jazzed about doing. I had plenty of other things that week I wanted to do, but it was something I felt was important because even not having kids at that point in time, I recognized that if as a church we're going to create all these institutions that meet our needs as adults, then why would we not put just as much effort, if not more, into what we have for our kids? I mean, aren't they worth it? I bring this up because our church is growing, and as we grow, we have more kids. And the question pops up, what do you do in terms of trying to meet the needs of families and the spiritual development of these children and our adolescents and youth as they get older? Well, let me explain to you what traditional churches do. Traditional churches are unified because they have this one big building they all go to, and typically they have one big service they go to, and then all of their traditions and ways that they go about doing things are all very, very similar, and that's what unites them. And so you have the pastor that will beg this group of people, maybe 200, 300, 400 people, for some kind of volunteers so that they can do things for kids, and then you'll get a few volunteers. Now the problem with this is that people are very hesitant to volunteer for things, especially when they view it not as like a spiritual thing, but they view it as, well, the church is asking for me to do them a favor. So you get volunteers, some of them are dedicated to it. Now look at our church. In our church, what we have is we have several different locations and several different worship experiences because we're not trying to be unified by things that men have created, by the building, by the service. We're trying to be united by what we see the Church in Acts being united by. The fact that they have this sense of community as a result of being willing to be redefined in the image of Christ. So when you do that, it creates some interesting things that we have to think about, we have to wrestle with. One of those things is, what do you do with your kids? Well, if you don't want to think about it too hard, what you think is, well, let's just take that big church thing and we'll crunch it down and we'll put it in our little home church, or we'll put it in the hub, or whatever it is that we have going on. And remember what I said happens in that big church. You'll have 200, 300, 400 people. The pastor will beg and beg and beg, and you might maybe get a few people. Well, now imagine that you are reducing that talent pool to 10, 15, 20 adults maybe, and you're doing it at every single service you have. So effectively, we've taken the same problem that 200, 300, 400 member churches have, and we've multiplied it by 3. That is what we would call not a winning plan.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
So we have to go about it differently. And I think that the way that we go about it is already kind of built into how we've done things for adults. I mean, think about it. What have we done for adults? We've said that, for some of you, you don't really want that more traditional kind of corporate experience. And so we'll have the hub for people who still want that maybe slightly more traditional thing, but we're going to have this home church offering. But then for some of us, Sunday doesn't really work for us because we either work, we have other commitments going on, so we're going to do something on Wednesday or Thursday, some midweek offering. All of those conveniences are really built for us. It's not really for our kids. I mean, the kids' schedules, for the most part, are kind of dictated by the things that they want to do or the things we sign them up for or something like that. So really, we're doing all of this for us, and that's okay. I guess what I'm trying to get at is if we set up these different services so that they can meet our needs and make it easier for us to be a part of a church family, why would we not afford our children the same benefit? Again, shouldn't we be giving them more than we even give ourselves? So because of that, what that does is it starts driving you away from saying each and every single group has to have a little Sunday school thing, and instead looking at it and saying, let's have a church that's built just for the kids. In the same way that we've sought to do that with our home churches and the hub church, let's create something just for them. It's geared for them. It's scheduled for them. We lay out activities just for them, and we also pool our resources. So instead of each service trying to come up with their own sets of volunteers, we take those individuals who say, I'm convicted that this is something I'm called to do, or I know how I have talents that I can offer here, or I have children, and because I have children, I know how important their spiritual development is to me, and I want to be a part of that. You get those individuals, you pull them together, and now instead of multiplying your problem by 3, you've actually kind of broken apart the type of problem that the big church has into something that's much easier. You're creating something just for them. So that instead of them begrudgingly being drug along with mom and dad, they get their own thing. Doesn't that sound kind of cool? Now, this also has a bunch of other benefits, and I don't really want to sit here and get into some kind of pitch thing. What I'm trying to communicate is that is the vision of what our church has sought to do. Our church from the very beginning has sought to say, let's become whatever we need to become to meet the needs of others. And that has led to things like home churches. It's led to things like what we do with Hub Church, with being willing to switch things around and change things and be agile. And so when it comes to our children, we need to be willing to do the exact same thing, to be different, to do things that are untraditional so that they can also have those same experiences that we get to enjoy as adults. The vision is that we should be giving our children just as much as we give ourselves. So if that's the case, what is your role? Are you a parent who just needs to commit to having your kids be a part of some kind of group, of some kind of sense of community? Now, it's also going to require maybe a commitment from individuals that say, I have talents that I have to offer. Maybe I feel convicted that I also see the importance of ministering to our children and to our youth. Maybe I see that there are some additional things that aren't a part of this vision that really need to be included. Regardless of what your role is, everybody has a role to play, because once again, this is not a church that is created on the basis of a bunch of stagnant programs that are assembled by a bunch of individuals in a back room and is propped up by an endowment. This is a community. Things only work if we tie together and we focus ourselves on common goals. The common goal here should be giving Christ and ensuring that we are giving discipleship to the next generation so that as they grow up and they face those challenges in their life, that they have every possible opportunity to look at that and say, I know what God has called me to, and I know how the world is going to try to pull me in a different direction. We're willing to do it for ourselves. We're willing to give ourselves something that's custom made. So all I'm asking is, let's do the same thing for our children. And so I put the question to you. What is your role?